Afternoon, everybody.
Hi, y'all.
And welcome to the first decent Sunday that we've had in a while, or first decent weather that we've had in several days. After that hellish week that we had of snow and ice.
Right? It's like Seattle around here. It's
I know.
so funny.
It is.
Our own Wendy Britton, who used to be in the group, moved to Seattle.
Yes.
And, I mean, she loves it up there, but it's like this all the time. It's beautiful, though. It's really beautiful.
Okay, well, welcome back to the Atheist Experience. We are live Sunday, the 2nd.
You got it.
Yep, March 2nd, 2003. And we are being sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin.
Notice the bug.
Yes. We have weekly meetings every Sunday at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop on 307 West 5th Street between Guadalupe and Lavaca. Those start around 10:30 in the morning and go until 1 o'clock when it closes. Except for the first Sunday of the month, which this was one of them, where we have a lecture series at the Austin History Center on 9th and Guadalupe.
Formerly at First Cafeteria in North Cross Mall, but...
Yes, before they went belly up.
Yeah. Just that location, though.
Yes.
But, yeah.
Yeah. So, today we did have a speaker. It was Don Lawrence, and since this is Texas History Month, we came in to speak about the free thinkers that started some of the communities in Texas and such. I unfortunately missed it.
Oh, I did too. I thought you were going to fill me in.
I was going to go, but I'm actually leaving out of town tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
And so I had just a ton of stuff to do this morning.
Yeah.
And so I even came in a little bit late to hear. So unfortunately I didn't get to make it. Hope it was good. Don Lawrence usually does some excellent stuff. So next month I don't have notice on who the speaker is. I think we have one lined up. Michelle did say that we do have somebody.
Okay.
We just don't know who it is. So.
Well, Tim was telling me that Don was great. It was
Okay.
really informative. He went, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So
Okay.
It was really informative, and he brought a lot of printouts, and so I heard really good things about it.
Cool. Okay. In addition to our Sunday meetings, we also have Monday night Godless Gamers. A whole bunch of us get together and play board games, card games, role-playing games, anything that takes our fancy. And that's at Russell Glasser's house. And you can actually go to our website, atheist-community.org. And if you write to the webmaster, that'll get to him if you want information on that. Also on Thursdays, we have Atheist Happy Hour at Antonio's Tex-Mex on the corner, near the corner of 183 and 35 on the southbound feeder of 35.
Can't miss the neon.
Yeah, the flashing signs everywhere. That is Thursday night, starting around 7:30, 8 o'clock. People come in all night. One of the people that goes there has a little sign that he puts up, so it's pretty easy to spot us. And what else is there?
Well,
the nonprofits.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately is still not on the air. Yes, we do miss those people. The nonprofits was a weekly internet radio show that we had, and it was at atheistnetwork.com. We still have older versions of the show available. You can actually go to our website, click on the radio link, and they have like the past dozen shows or something like that there that you can download. MP3 streams, great episodes. Also, University Atheist and Agnostics, a college group that has been started by our own Charles Tabany and Andy Roberts. They are meeting at, let's see.
There.
Yep, on our screen. Fridays at 4 o'clock, I think it's Rimini Hall. Rainy Hall.
Yeah.
And I cannot see the number. Here's something that'll help that.
3.102A.
Yep, 3021A. That helps.
Oh, 3.102. 3.102.
So, and that is every Friday at 4 o'clock. That group has been going great. This is their actually second semester that they're doing it. And like I say here, that they're taking off like gangbusters.
Yeah.
So.
They have like 52 members now, I heard. That's awesome.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, cool. Okay. So yes, go check that out if you're on campus and you want a free thinkers group there. As for announcements, I believe that is it.
Okay.
We got the Godless Gamers, the Happy Hour, the Sunday meetings, the University Atheists.
Oh, and CDs.
CDs. We don't do
folks can
CDs.
get them. Okay.
Yeah.
We can't say that.
No.
Okay. All right.
So, okay. So that is it for announcements. This is a live call-in show. You can call in a little bit later and ask us any questions you have related to atheism and our experiences of life. But first, before we get to that, we're going to go over to Mary, who has news for the day.
Okay. Well, and actually, I wanted to mention real quick, Mr. Rogers, as we all know, I don't know if you can see this picture very well, but it's a printout from home computer, and I just wanted to just take a moment just to acknowledge the loss of Mr. Rogers. We were talking about him before the show, and I guess you were in Norway at that time, weren't you, when he was on the air?
Probably England. When was he on?
He's been on for 30 years.
Yeah, he's been on for like forever.
Yeah, but I guess at that time, were they broadcasting though his show?
In the early time when I was young enough to actually be watching something like that, they didn't have anything like that over there.
Yeah.
I don't think. At least they didn't have Mr. Rogers on TV.
Yeah, yeah.
So I watched Blue Peter and stuff like that instead.
See, now we go, who's that? Who was Blue Peter?
That was just one of these shows where they get together and they do, it's a whole bunch of kids' stories, and then they'll, make stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those kids'
cool.
entertainment areas.
That's fun, yeah.
But that's what I had.
Yeah. So. Well, we were talking about him before the show, and I just can't believe he's gone. But I wanted to share just a couple of anecdotes from some high schoolers out of Pittsburgh. Mr. Rogers was actually an ordained Presbyterian minister.
Okay.
But one of the things as a kid that I remember growing up was that, and I didn't really appreciate it till I got older, but he never really preached. The only thing he really talked about was just the sanctity of children, and they're not just big, they're not just young adults, but they're more than that. They're children. They need to be talked to like they're people, and not like they're just and
how to live a good life.
Yeah, yeah. So half a dozen Pittsburgh high school students talked about him, and one student in particular said, "Mr. Rogers was my childhood hero. I'd spend every afternoon with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a bag of chips watching him on television. He was a fatherly presence. My father was hardly ever around. Mr. Rogers would teach life lessons. He helped my imagination grow." And another one, so I'd watch, this is funny, I think. As an only child especially, I think it's great that this senior dance major, Susan Foley, recalled having her mother videotape Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood when she was between 8 and 10 years old because her 4 older brothers thought the show wasn't cool. So I'd watch it in another room and close the door. Foley, 18, said, "Coming home from school and entering that magical world was important for me. I don't know if I'd be as open to letting my imagination out now if it wasn't for him taking his train into that world." So I just wanted to share that.
Excellent.
And his funeral was Saturday. He taped his final new episode in December of 2000.
He was still doing shows.
Yes. Yes,
holy cow.
I know, he was.
Wow.
And that's the thing, when he got cancer, he went so fast. Apparently he was diagnosed in December.
Really?
And, yeah,
wow.
And now he's gone. But one of his, just a bit of trivia, one of his red sweaters is now at the Smithsonian.
Oh.
So, got a kick out of that, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Do we know what kind of cancer it was? What it was?
Stomach.
Okay.
Stomach cancer.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So, I could talk about him all day.
He will be sorely missed.
He will. So. He really will. But we can get reruns, so that's good.
If he did 30 years of these shows, they'll be reruns for a long time.
We'll have a lot of programs to watch, yeah. Let's see. Turning to news around the state, our own Mark Lowy is in the studio. And Mark has been pressing for a long time to allow children to keep their math and science textbooks.
Yes.
And very fabulous. And right now, in the Texas House and Senate, Garnett Coleman, a Democrat of Houston, has agreed to sponsor a bill, and he's actually authoring the bill, along with co-author Kent Grusendorf, a Republican of Arlington, that would allow kids in grades 1 through 6 to permanently keep their math and science books.
Yay.
That'd be fabulous. So hopefully someday we'll also, I was telling Mark before the show, maybe we can see English books and geography books and other books that kids will be allowed to keep. But actually he brought some, and these are Korean math books. I don't know if we can get a close-up on this, but I mean, Mark said these were kind of dated, but there are some interesting photographs in here. I guess it's maybe in that one.
This is biology, I
But
think.
yeah, this is, I don't know if we can zoom in, but that's okay. Yeah, these are Korean textbooks, and as you can probably see, they're very simple. You know, there's no
no hardcovers
no
or anything like that.
hardcover. This is really going to wash out, as you can see.
Yeah.
But no, it's just real straightforward, though. It's just the information that kids need to know in a particular subject. And I think...
Although
oh, go ahead.
I must say, though, that this does dispel the myth that math is the common language.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but, I mean, look at these diagrams. Like, here's a, looks like a magnet with some paper clips on it. And
yeah,
those
but...
those are universal, you know. Kids on the playground.
Very
that kind
interesting.
Of thing. Yeah. So, wanted to be sure to share those. And a hearing has not yet been set for this bill, but we will certainly, you know, keep an eye on it as it rolls through.
Definitely.
So again, that's House Bill 689, if you want to take a look at it. And
hopefully that will get through, because we can really use it.
Definitely.
Our math and science, like I say, I believe that we are like last.
Yeah. Do you have any
Second
figures?
to last. I think I heard like 15 out of 16 of, you know, some of the more like third world or first world countries.
Yeah.
But we are behind practically everybody, including like Bangladesh.
Yeah.
And so, but a lot of other countries that are doing really well, like Singapore and Korea and stuff like that, they have their kids keeping their books, and that's one of the reasons why they may not have as much review. As in, now when you start a year of school, half the year is reviewing last year's stuff. So if you can actually have the books, then you don't have quite as much of a need for so much review.
Right.
So hopefully they'll, you know, get a little bit farther in the year.
Yeah.
So.
It's too bad they can't legislate kids studying, but I don't see that happening.
But then again, I don't.
Here's your book.
I was a kid. I was a kid once too.
Yeah.
I don't. Man, summer is not for studying.
Yeah. No, I know. Forget about it. But that's okay. I mean, at least they'll have the book.
Yes.
You know, and a lot of kids may want to read it, so that's great.
So, and they can be updated more often too.
Absolutely.
Since you don't have a book that's supposed to last 10 years or something like that.
Yeah.
New books will be printed like every year, every other year type thing.
Exactly.
New information.
Exactly.
So, excellent.
Let's see. The top story, I think, around the nation at this point is just in yesterday from San Francisco. This is from the Associated Press, and basically Newdow, as we all know, Michael Newdow filed the lawsuit against the Under God and the Pledge of Allegiance. Rebuffing the Bush administration, a federal appeals court on Friday refused to consider its ruling that reciting the Pledge of Allegiance in public schools is unconstitutional because of the words under God. So basically, this will now hopefully go to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they will make a decision one way or the other. Now, again, as you were pointing out, they may not even hear it.
And I think I've heard reports that they are really going to try and avoid this like anything, just because it's such a hot topic. That, you know, getting into that whole issue would be a whole firestorm. And so they might try and just avoid it like the plague. Even though it could go to the Supreme Court, they could be asked to hear it, they can still say no. So
it's quite a political hot potato.
Exactly, exactly. And so I would be surprised if they took it, and a little bit scared if they took it also. Yeah. Because you never can tell, you know, what's going to happen. So who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. It's exciting, though. I mean, Attorney General John Ashcroft condemned the decision and said that the big surprise said the Justice Department will, quote, spare no effort to preserve the rights of all our citizens to pledge allegiance to the American flag, period. But he stopped short of saying the administration will appeal to a high court. So, you know, this guy is so whack. He makes me so mad. Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, he's entitled to his opinion, but... Yes, and he is perfectly welcome to it, but yeah, just study the Constitution, boy. Yeah. So. Just as a refresher, the challenge was brought by Sacramento atheist Michael Newdow, who objected to his 8-year-old daughter's listening to the words under God in school. The words were added by Congress in 1954 during the Cold War to distinguish democracy from godless communism. Yes. And it is so explicit that... It's one of those things that you think that they might have put it in there just, you know, as kind of a backdoor thing. Let's sneak it in or something like that. Yeah. But no, they actually had the people who were pushing this forward, including the president, I think. Yeah.
who were explicitly saying that, you know, the communists are all godless people, so we need to show them that we're God's country here.
Yeah.
And it's frightening that it's just so blatantly,
It is.
you know, we have to show kids, and again, this was not just, you know, the Pledge of Allegiance for Americans who want to be proud of their God. They knew that kids were being made to recite this in school. And they knew that this is what was going to happen. It's just, I can't swallow that.
I know.
That, yeah, I mean, they just know this is going to be put in schools. And so, yeah, they're saying, you know, we're going to force our kids to say, you know, under God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's frightening.
It is,
So.
it is. And speaking of backdoor, I mean, not to sound, sorry, not to sound too much like a condom commercial or anything, but if you want to do that, folks, if you want to put under God into the Pledge of Allegiance, if you want to do that, then you gotta wear one of these. This is the Constitution of the United States. So, okay, just thought I'd throw that in there. It's a
Okay.
okay. Moving right along.
Moving right along.
Yeah. This is the 50th anniversary of the discovery of DNA. And it's interesting. This article is from voanews.com. And it doesn't actually mention the fact that Tim, my honey, was pointing out that the DNA was actually discovered not just by two men.
Francis and Crick, wasn't it? No.
Watson. Yeah, close. Watson and Crick.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. James Watson and Dr. Francis Crick.
Oh, Francis.
Yeah, got it. But there was also a co-discoverer, Rosalind Franklin. And she used a technique called X-ray crystallography that revealed the helical shape of the DNA molecule. Now, again, I would hate to try to expound on this much further than the summary that I found, but if you'd like to check it out, just go to PBS Home and you can read more about Rosalind Franklin and her contribution to the discovery of DNA. But again, as far as the anniversary, the microscopic data, again, DNA, this is the discovery of the structure of DNA. The microscopic data every cell contains and upon which life on Earth is based. New York is commemorating the anniversary with a 6-part exhibition celebrating the often overlooked partnership between art and science. Dr. James Watson, who made the discovery, with Dr. Francis Crick, was on hand to view the sculptures, photographs, and paintings that his research inspired. So,
Cool.
Yeah.
It's surprising that that's only been 50 years.
I know.
It's relatively recent considering all that we've gotten out of it since then. All the studies, and we've just finished mapping the human genome. And
Isn't that incredible?
a lot of other creatures out there, we now have their entire, you know, genome mapped out.
It really is amazing.
It's only 50 years.
I know.
Wow.
Just a blink of an eye.
Cool.
And yeah, I wanted to mention too about Rosalind Franklin that it says here, this is from PBS, that she was a shy and inward young woman, and she often suffered from patronizing attitudes and sexism that forced her to do much of her work alone. And her senior partner, Wilkins, showed some of Franklin's findings to Watson in January 1953 without her knowledge. So, you know, there was a lot of backstabbing going on, it sounds like. But
it was not the most enlightened time in our history.
no, it wasn't. Watson, Crick, and Wilkins received the Nobel Prize in 1962, but despite Rosalind Franklin's contribution to the discovery of DNA's helical structure, she was not named a prize winner. She had died of cancer 4 years earlier at 37. So,
Too bad.
yeah, yeah. But it's good to know, 50 years is...
Yep. 50 years and we've come this far.
Yeah.
What do we do in the next 50? So.
Okay, so let's see. I'm trying to think of a segue here. It's tough to go from DNA to silly stuff, you know, but let me see.
Well, in a break.
Yeah. Let's see. How about, well, let's segue to the fun stuff. What the hell?
Okay.
Let's see. This is a little bit old, but this is a People magazine from December of 2002. And of course, Saddam Hussein is on the world's mind at the moment.
In a very frightening pose.
Very frightening pose here with his saber. But I just had to read this intro to this little blurb. He is one of the most 25 most intriguing people of 2002. Now, I don't know if intriguing is maybe
define intriguing.
the best word. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
Influential, possibly?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. fanatical, maybe? I don't know. Okay, but I just had to read this intro paragraph. To understand the lethal enigma that is Saddam Hussein, go to Baghdad. Go to the Mother of All Battles Mosque, one of the huge new mosques that Saddam has recently ordered up to qualify as a builder of Muslim holy places, unlike any since the Middle Ages. Once inside, make your way to the room that holds a very special 650-page segment of the Quran. Each page is allegedly, and I stress the word allegedly because I don't really have any evidence for this, but allegedly written in Saddam's own blood. 50 donated pints.
50 pages. No, how many?
650.
650 pages.
Yeah. Each page is allegedly written in Saddam's own blood. 50 donated pints mixed with ink and preservatives. Wow.
I'm sorry, I can find something better to do with 50 donated pints of blood
I know.
than write the Quran in it.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Or write anything in it. I mean,
I don't know. It almost just sounds
Ew.
like some yeah, I know. Ew. I mean, it does. It just sounds like some terrible,
yeah.
made up story. But I don't know. Knowing him, I guess I wouldn't put it past him.
God, I mean, if you got extra blood, I guess why not? But
Yeah.
jeez.
Yikes. Okay. Let's see. The other thing I wanted to share is from Saddam to boobies. Maxim.
Always a nice segue.
Maxim on this month's cover. It's yeah. We got this PYT on the cover.
It's trashy.
And on the center of the magazine, they've got a God Guide. The Classic Guide to Greek Deities. Again, this is the March 2003 issue, available now. And these drawings are just hilarious. It may be kind of hard to zoom in on them fully, but let me just share.
Is very cool.
Isn't this great? Tim showed this to me, and I just got the biggest kick out of it. It is hilarious. It says they were the spiritual foundation for entire cultures, and they were more screwed up than the cast of The Real World. This is their story.
Yeah.
The all-powerful
This
gods.
is all the Greek deities?
Yes. These are
Classic
just the Greeks.
Greeks.
Yeah, classic Greek gods.
Okay.
The all-powerful gods of antiquity that inspired a global population of diner owners. And of course, my big fat Greek wedding, which is fabulous.
Yes.
Let's see. Persephone, after she was kidnapped by Hades, her pissed-off mom, Demeter, made the crops die. Zeus got her home for 2/3 of each year, but Hades held her to a 4-month timeshare contract in hell. Hence, winter. Or Canada, as it says here. So
Interesting. That's kind of cool.
This is really fun. And it's got their family tree and everything and the way they're related, so it's very good.
Yeah, I know the Greek deities were very, very different than anything that we have today.
Yeah.
They were considered more like really powerful, real people. As in, they were gods, they lived up in, heaven and stuff like that, and they came down to earth and they did things, but they had their little flaws.
Mm-hmm.
They were not perfect beings in any sense of the way. Mm-hmm. And so I think it was said that the Greeks were humanists. They realized that morality comes from people and having lived together in society and stuff like that. It didn't come from gods because you don't want to resemble them. Because, they were all flawed. But, yeah, it's a really interesting thing.
So interesting. So, yeah, I did not know that. That's cool.
So,
yeah.
Yes, they were theistic humanists.
Yeah.
Instead of a secular humanist, you got a theist humanist or something like that.
Because they believed in God.
Yes, they did believe in the gods. They
But
just
they were
realized that
also
morality, the gods were fallible, so
Okay.
morality did not come from the gods.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So, and even more interesting when it could be done in comic cartoons in
Right.
Maxim magazine.
Maxim.
So.
Leave it to Maxim. Yeah. Let's see. The other thing. Oh, yeah. Let's talk about Road Trip. This headline is great. This is from the Charlotte Observer, and a professor has hit the roadside to find religion in all the odd places. So it's kind of like Arlo, with his product demonstration.
Yeah.
Arlo Pignati, who's a member of the ACA, has been on the show, and
Yes.
he has given his, what does he call it though? His product?
Holy paraphernalia
Holy
mania.
paraphernalia mania.
So,
Yeah.
yes.
So this is kind of a professor who's been going around, and instead of actually buying products, he's been going to different places to see what kinds of wacky religious stuff they've got.
Cool.
And Here's one example. Some folks get religion in church. Timothy Beale found religion on a miniature golf fairway of the Golgotha Fun Park in Cave City, Kansas. That's Golgotha, where visitors can sink a putt as Jesus ascends to heaven on the 18th hole. I just love that. He also found it in thousands of scrap wood crosses planted across 11 acres of Alabama farmland, bearing such messages as, "Hell is hot, hot, hot." And it was there in the life-size replica of Noah's Ark, sailing the seas of possibility off Interstate 68 in Frostburg, Maryland.
Man, we got to catch this guy when he comes to Austin.
I'm telling you.
Oh, that is just too funny. You putt the 16th hole at putt-putting.
There he goes. Let's see. Again, this is Timothy Beale, and he's 39, and as he said, quote, "Religion is at its most interesting and most telling where it's least expected." So again,
I would agree with that.
You know, who would have
very telling.
Yeah. Actually, and his findings are coming out in a book.
Oh, cool.
It's called Religion and Its Monsters. No, that can't be right. Actually, he does have a book coming
Monsters and Their Religions.
Yeah, let me back up a second here to make sure that's right. Roadside religion also meshes with the personality of an author whose previous book, this is his previous book, examined supernatural creatures in Religion and Its Monsters, and whose own daughter once noted that Daddy, who keeps a Jesus action figure in his office, we've seen Arlo bring those to the Holy Paraphernalia talk, likes to make creepy things interesting. Beale's book will provide a glimpse of 20 attractions. Okay, and the new book that he's coming out with is called Roadside Religion. So we'll have to check that out. Yeah.
That's funny.
Other examples are Holy Land USA Nature Sanctuary in Bedford, Virginia, with its scaled-down version of biblical Israel on the side of an old government whiskey distillery, the Living Bible Museum in Mansfield, Ohio, the world's largest rosary collection in Stevenson, Washington, and biblical mini golf, of course, in Lexington. This is in Lexington.
Why do they always have to have putt-putt in there?
I know.
What's up with putt-putt in religion?
Oh, that's really... You could probably write a book about that. That's funny. Okay. So, let's see. How are we doing on time? Oh, got about 2 minutes, huh? Before we take calls, maybe?
We could push calls a little bit, but we do have, I don't know how much news you have. Still got the 2 emails.
Yeah, let's do those.
Okay.
If you want. I mean.
Alrighty then.
Okay.
Sure. Yes, we have a new segment on the show that we're doing now. Every week we have an email address, tv@atheist-community.org. And if you don't manage to get through, we never get to all of our callers. And so if you have any questions, or we can't get you in at the end, or you don't want to call up, something like that, write to us, and we'll take a couple emails that we get every week, read them on the air, and answer them. So this first one actually isn't from that email address. This is just to our normal email list that we have.
Okay.
And this is a letter that one of our members, somebody on the list received from a family member.
That was scary. But
yes, it was. Anyway, it starts off, if someone had held a gun in front of your face and asked you if you believed in God, what would you do? Don't answer for us. Say no and feel ashamed the rest of your life, or say yes, I do, and die standing up for God. If you'd say no, then delete this email. If you would say yes and stand up for Jesus Christ, please read this and pass on. I do like the mistype there. Read this and pass on. Note, this is a true article. We'll get to that. That was printed in a southern newspaper less than a year ago. There was an atheist couple who had a child. The couple never told their daughter anything about the Lord. One night when the little girl was 5 years old, the parents fought with each other, and the dad shot the mom right in front of the child. Then the dad shot himself. The little girl watched it all. Then she was sent to a foster home. The foster mother was a Christian and took the child to church. On the first day of Sunday school, the foster mother told the teacher that the girl had never heard of Jesus and to have patience with her. The teacher held up a picture of Jesus and says, "Does anyone know who this is?" The little girl said, "I do. That's the man who was holding me the night my parents died." And it goes on to say, if you believe this, then pass it on, because Jesus is with us in our hearts. Well, We have questions on that. One, it was, who is it? John Michael Montgomery actually wrote a song about that.
And that's really true.
Yes, that part is true. That part is true. I have heard that song, and we don't need it.
It's not real atheist friendly.
No, not really. Saying that, they were atheists, and of course, you're doing drugs, and you're drinking, and you're out partying. So, yes, not very friendly to our persuasion. But anyway, it turns out he wrote that song because he got this letter, or one very similar to it, emailed to him from his brother. Again, this letter has been passing around the internet for years now. It's not true. It's on Snopes.com, which is one of these sites that tracks a lot of urban legends and stuff like that. If you get in your email that, send a postcard to this kid who's collecting them, well, don't do it anymore, okay? Stop it. Knock it off. It's all listed on Snopes.com. It's a great site. They list a lot of their resources. And they basically list the letter practically word for word, exactly the same, and say this piece of unknown origin about an orphan girl who sees a picture of Jesus on Sunday and identifies him as the man who comforted her the night that her father killed her mother and himself is a fairly typical example of glurg. Ordinarily unremarkable, save for one fact that it has been turned into a smash hit by Nashville songwriter Harley Allen and country singer. Yeah, he actually wrote it. John Michael apparently sang it.
Same diff.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is a story that has been circulating. No newspaper has ever claimed it. The writer of the song has tried to track down the origins of it and find out if it's real or not. Has not been able to do it. So there was no little girl who was raised by atheist parents and then, who killed themselves, and then she saw Jesus. It didn't happen, people.
And hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just had to break in. What does being raised by atheist parents have to do with your parents being wild and drinking and carousing and all that stuff? I mean,
exactly.
A lot of us in the group have been raised by atheist parents. And
exactly.
Maybe their parents did that, maybe not, but they sure didn't murder each other.
Exactly. Obviously.
I mean, and even if they did, atheism is irrelevant.
Exactly. Exactly. Atheism does not mean that you have no morals, and you can do all of this when you have a kid. Far from it.
Please.
And this is even one of those things that, again, John Michael and Harley Allen, the writer of the song, were trying to track this down. They couldn't do it. And who was it? I believe it was John Michael Montgomery who said that, here it is. Allen says he and his brother have tried to track the source without any luck. It's posted on dozens of websites, usually with the title such as Held by Jesus and Little Child, stuff like that. As in where it came from, we don't have a clue about its origin, Allen says. But if it ain't true, it ought to be.
What?
That's kind of frightening.
It is.
The fact that,
Wait a minute.
It's here. That was in the USA Today.
Oh, come on.
That's what Allen had to say about this. That's kind of frightening. I mean, yeah, it's kind of nice to have, actual true stories, but I'm sorry, this is a story about a kid being raised in an abusive household, having her see her parents shoot each other, and I mean, we don't want this to be true. As neat as it would be, we don't want that to be true. Come on, people. That's really frightening. So yes, the beginning of that email is completely fictitious. It did not happen. Next, and then it goes on, and it has no segue in here. It just jumps to the next part. Funny, isn't it? Funny how simple it is for people to trash God and then wonder why the world's going to hell. Funny how we believe what the newspaper says but question what the Bible says. Funny how everyone wants to go to heaven provided they do not have to believe, think, say, or do anything the Bible says. Or is it scary? Funny how someone can say, I believe in God, but still follow Satan, who, by the way, also believes in God. Funny how you can send 1,000 jokes through email and they spread like wildfire, but when you start sending messages regarding the Lord, people think twice about sharing, and it goes on, blah, 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 blah. I actually wrote back to the person who got this, and I got a letter that was almost exactly, it was longer, but it was exactly the same as that type of thing. Forwarded to me from a family member. And Yeah, I ended up doing a long reply to that, to each point of it, and I sent it back.
To the one from your family member?
Yes. Yes, and I forwarded that back. But it actually started off saying that we need to have religion in schools and stuff like that because the Bible has so many good things in it. But it was just one of these horrible letters. I don't understand though, and apparently I was looking this up on the internet. This funny how thing is actually posted on, again, dozens and dozens and dozens of websites on the internet. It was written, the version I had said that it came from, I think, Billy Graham, his daughter, who actually wrote that. I'm not positive on that one, that may be what it's from. But it's one of these things where it's apparently written by some, strong Christian who's saying all the other Christians suck. Why is it that, you aren't following the Bible the way you should? Why isn't that the Word of God isn't sticking with you? I'm doing everything right. Why aren't you? And so it's basically accusing all these Christians of leading a bad life. I don't get it. But yeah, apparently this is on a couple websites, and one of the people there said that he gets a lot of emails from Christians saying that they get kind of offended for this.
Yeah.
Because they're being, chastised for being a bad Christian.
Yeah, I would be really interested from our callers, as you can see the phone numbers up,
Yes.
To hear from them on this. Because, I mean, I know a lot of Christians who might want to compel atheists to convert to Christianity, but I don't know that all of them would necessarily take this kind of, well, for lack of a better word, violent approach. You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and
I don't know.
And it just goes on and on. Like I say, I had fun when I was replying to it because I was going through the Bible finding other quotes because they were saying, they said that we shouldn't have the Bible in school, and the Bible says thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. And we said, okay. And so saying that, we shouldn't have the Bible in school, that's what the school boards are saying. And I reply to that and say, the Bible also says that, if you're raped, then, the rapist can go free as long as you kill the victim.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. I mean, the Bible has a whole bunch of horrible stuff in it. We can't really use that as a moral compass. It fails badly. But like I say, it was just a horrible email. And again, it's so accusatory, not just of everybody else who isn't a Christian, but to all Christians.
Right.
They don't like it either. So, but again, I guess it's everybody who takes it and says, oh yes, I'm good all the time, and so I'll forward this to everybody else who maybe isn't. So
yeah, so what's positive about that?
I know,
mean,
really.
If you want to persuade somebody to be a Christian, I don't really see how that's going to help your cause.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
Except maybe they'll get scared. I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
It's one of these things where somebody wrote it one day when they were all ticked off, and they said, everybody else is failing. Why, I'm doing the good job here. I'm tired of carrying your load, so. So I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, the story that it started off with is not true, and the rest of it's just kind of inflammatory.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, one more email to go over really quickly.
Yeah. And
then we can go to callers. Our phone number, which is up on the screen, 477-2288. And like I say, we'll get to that in a few minutes. This is one that did come from our email list. This is someone who had seen the show for the first time. And they start off, how would you explain phenomena such as out-of-body experience, NDEs, and hauntings where multiple people have seen the same thing or had the same experience? NDEs being near-death experiences. Did you have something to say on this?
Not really.
Okay, I'll start. Okay,
Go ahead.
Out-of-body experiences. I actually did some reading up on that,
Yeah.
and slightly on NDEs also. Out-of-body experiences are essentially where you feel like your mind or your soul or whatever it is leaving your body and it can go elsewhere. Basically, how this usually happens is through deep forms of meditation.
Now, is this the thing where you see the light at the end of the tunnel or something?
No,
or
that's
is that different?
That's a near death.
Oh, okay.
That's when you're dying and you see the light near the end of the tunnel.
Okay. You're talking about out of body.
This is out of body.
Oh, okay.
You go through this form of meditation, then you can leave your body and you can go fly around. Essentially, yeah.
Wow.
It's one of these things where what you're doing when you're in deep meditation, or a lot of other things like drugs and such, you're messing with brain chemistry. Now, out-of-body experiences are pretty cool. I haven't had one, but I've read a lot of books on it and talked to a lot of people who said that they have. And it's one of these things where it's really neat, because your brain is basically making up things, and you're not in control of it as much as you normally consciously are. And so it's your mind that's basically going on these wild trips and taking you along for the ride. That's kind of cool. But again, it's messing with your brain chemistry, which it can be good, can be bad, may not really have any major effects. But again, your brain is your sensory organ. It's what tells you about the real world. Mm-hmm. If you mess it up, messages that you get back from it, you can't rely on. And so while it may be neat to be able to meditate at night and, you know, take a trip to Japan or something like that, it's neat, but it's not telling you anything about the real world. The real objective world is still something different, and you still need all your faculties to deal with that. As for near-death experiences, that's the one.
Yeah.
A lot of people even in different cultures all have similar experiences where they die and they're going up to this big bright light, and sometimes they see relatives or they hear God, stuff like that. But a lot of them are always having that bright light in the distance that they're going to.
Incidentally, we'd like to hear from folks if you feel like you've had a near-death experience.
Exactly. Or if you can correct anything here, because
Yeah.
I'm not the most informed person on all of these exactly. A lot of that I have read about is, again, how the brain works, and when you die, when you get oxygen deprivation to different parts of the brain. If you deprive oxygen to, let's say, you know, the lobe that handles sight, then you're going to see weird hallucinations. And a bright light in the distance is a pretty easy one to make, essentially. So again, it's just your body going through physical death affecting your brain, which is, again, your sensory organ. You're going to get weird things happening. Going back to out-of-body experiences, though, really quick, what is neat about that one is, I think it was a couple months back, they were doing some research on an epileptic patient. And they were trying to find out how these brain farts essentially happen. And they had to... Sorry.
That's a technical term.
Technically speaking. They had different electrodes in the brain and stuff like that, and they were trying to measure things. And they found that there's this little portion of the brain above the right ear called the angular gyrus. If you zap that with electricity, they had an out-of-body experience all the time.
Yeah.
Every time they did that, they would, you know, kind of jump out of their body for a few seconds and then come back in.
They'd see the bright light and all that stuff, I guess? Or?
No, it was an out-of-body, not the near-death.
Out-of-body, that's right.
And so again, it felt like their, you know, center of perception was elsewhere.
Wow.
You know, other than the center of their head. And so that was really interesting that they, you know, again, they put this electrode there, they zap it, and there you go. So that's out of bodies and near-death experience, stuff like that. Also, saying about this, saying that they have a friend who's a biblical fundamentalist and young earth creationist and all that kind of stuff, and they're trying to argue about some of the scientific aspects and how there's no evidence for a flood, and that you know the geologic column shows it's, you know, so old and stuff like that. But they really weren't up to date on the science in it, which is understandable. It can be kind of deep. But there are a couple great sites on that I'd rather refer to rather than just go over some of it here. The best one being talkorigins.org. I think it's talk.origins. Is it?
I thought it was all one word, but we have that though.
Yeah, Steve, do we have that up on the all the sites and everything? It was talkorigins.org basically, and that has lots and lots and lots of pages on there about basically just every question pretty much that we have ever had on this show dealing with any form of science, evolution, the geologic column, the age of the Earth, radiocarbon dating, whatever. It's going to be on there. And a lot of their articles also link to other sites, Christian sites, that either explain the Christian argument or try and refute their argument. And so they have links to a lot of outside sites to actually go and, you know, read up a little bit more for yourself. That is really one of the best sites to start with. And also, if you just go to our website at atheist-community.org, we have a links page there, and that will have lots and lots of sites on there, and that would be a great place to start. Or record this show.
Yeah.
So, and we will get to callers. As I say, this is a live call-in show, 477-2288. And we will jump to callers. And we are going to start with, let's see, we have Trace on line 1.
Hello?
Yes, you there?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. You were talking about the out-of-body experience.
Yes.
one of the easy, I don't know if it's an explanation, but I'd hurt my back a couple years ago and ended up getting all these prescription drugs, you know, for painkillers and steroids and stuff like that. And after taking all of them at once, it kind of puts you on this weird plane where it was in the middle of the night, I could hear my girlfriend's cat running around and everything, and it seemed to me what I guess most people confuse an out-of-body experience of being, where I could kind of, I wasn't really feeling like I was laying in bed, but more or less just witnessing what was going on in the room just by the sounds around me, and almost like when you hear about deaf people or blind people, the heightened sense of what it was more like that, and it kind of, I guess, opened up to what people think an out-of-body experience is, just kind of that little moment where you teeter in between sleep and awake, you know, the little crazy, you know, moments or whatever, where you kind of just, everything else opens up except for your eyes, and you notice the room and sounds bouncing off of each other, and there's an easy explanation for it rather than, oh, my soul came out of my body and everything.
It's
you just kind
brain
of
chemistry.
get trapped into this little, you know, weird part of your brain that both, you know, sections functioning at the same time on a little bit. So
Yeah, I know. In that that area between sleep and wake, you have some weird stuff going on there. I know I used to have these dreams sometimes. Not really dreams, but I'd wake up and I'd be at the tail end of a dream where I'd be holding something in my hand. One time I remember there was a piece of paper and a pen, and it was there. It was the realest thing that you could possibly feel. But then, as I slowly woke up, I just felt, you know, my hand just closed, and I felt around the bed for like 5 minutes, going, "Where did I drop it?" It was just the realest thing in the world. It was it was funky. But yeah, again, it's going back to brain chemistry. If you mess up with your brain, either through, you know, drugs or through meditation, stuff like that, even you're going to get some weird results. So, and again, it doesn't tell you anything about the objective world. It tells you about your brain.
It kind of just letting your imagination go with it and just using whatever you know logically going on with whatever's going on with your subconscious as well, kind of mixing it together and just sending you for a ride. But
and again, I mean, it can be neat stuff.
It was pretty fun. I didn't
end
up taking all three of those medications at the same time. So I couldn't
probably.
I was kind of stuck in that state for about an hour, and I couldn't fall asleep.
Oh gosh,
it was pretty maddening.
Yeah, that's a sign that it shouldn't be happening. But
how's your back doing now?
Oh, it's fine. It was just I'd thrown a disc out, and they gave me some steroids to kind of get it back in, and also a muscle relaxer and a painkiller. And it's like, oh, take all three of these at the same time. But I did that once.
Like, how can you not have an out-of-body?
I know, exactly.
Whoa. Well, while we've got you on the line, can I ask you an aside question?
Sure.
Just out of curiosity, do you consider yourself a religious person?
Oh, no. I hate saying atheist just because, I mean, I guess I don't hate it, but I mean, it has such a bad stigma to it, you know, but I consider myself an atheist. I believe, you know, in science and more logical approaches to things rather than mythology and stories handed down. So.
Yeah. Which is actually a side note why we kind of stick with the Atheist Experience and the Atheist Community of Austin. Is because the word does have a bad stigma attached to it. We're trying to counter that to a certain extent.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it's nothing against people who, you know, like I guess I watch your show frequently, you know. And I'm not ashamed to say like, oh, I'm an atheist or anything like that. I hate having the argument right after that of people. You don't believe in God?
No,
not really. Then you have to. Well, do you believe in the devil? No, I don't believe in him.
Not him either.
So it's always kind of, I always have to, you know, have like a little 5-minute spiel ready for them when that conversation comes up.
Okay, well, got anything else for us?
Nope. Just I really enjoy it. It's good to see people out there, you know.
Thank you very much.
Like-minded.
So, yes, it's a very fun show.
Yeah.
So. Okay, thanks for calling.
Thanks for calling.
So, actually, as another thing too, I was at work yesterday, and I actually work for a computer company in town. I do phone tech support. And we had this little discussion, and I don't know how it started, but it was the funniest thing, saying that computers are almost like a religion these days. It's one of these advanced technologies where nobody, you know, most of the people don't really understand, especially people who call tech support. They're calling for a reason. It's one of these magical boxes with God in it doing special things that you want it to do. And all of a sudden when God stops, you know, making printer come out of the electrical box, you know, paper come out and stuff like that, they call the priests, us, to come and we commune with God. And we help them, you know, we pass their messages on to God, and we give them the holy incantations of Apple Option PR. and reinstall your system and all these magical things that they don't understand. And all of a sudden, they make God happy again, and God starts printing for them. But it was this long discussion that we had. We were thinking, okay, so what are tithes then? Where do tithes come into this? And it's like, well, that's easy. People have to call for tech support. If they don't pay us money, we don't help them. So it was a great discussion. It was the funniest thing.
Well, since you work in tech support, do you consider yourself a holy man?
No. It was a great discussion, good analogy, but it ended.
Yeah.
But lots and lots of fun.
And you don't worship your computer either. Well, you might worship Apple. Sort of.
No. Again, because I am a priest, the analogy goes further, because we know that it's just an electrical box doing things that you want it to do.
Yeah.
There is no God.
Yeah.
There is no magic behind it.
There's not.
And so, yes, all the priests are just lying to you. So, okay, next one. We have Harsha.
Harsha?
Okay. Harsha on line 2. Hello, you there?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I had a real quick question. I'm actually an agnostic myself.
Okay.
I was wondering, when I tell people that I'm an agnostic, they ask me, they give me the stare, and then they wonder, they often confuse agnostic person or an atheist person as somebody immoral.
Yes.
Like he doesn't have any morals or something. And I was wondering where atheists derive their sense of morality from.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people, when you say you're an atheist, they obviously confuse you with somebody who's totally immoral and, sits around or something like that.
Exactly. If there's no God, why don't I just kill everybody?
Yeah.
So how does one justify that morality and religion are two different things, and it's a society that we live in, and we are bound by
Exactly.
inherent goodness and not just by...
And that's exactly it. We live in society. I have to deal with people in society every day. Now, in a very short-term sense, it would be benefit to me to, let's say, kill somebody, because I could take their stuff. In the short-term benefit of this evening, that would be good. I would benefit. No real reason not to. However, the trouble comes when the police come knocking at my door, because the rest of society, including everyone who knows that person, is going to be really, really annoyed at me. And so they're going to come and try and do the same thing to me. And so basically, by living in society, we have to come to agreements on rules that I won't take your stuff, you won't take my stuff, we'll live separately, and life will be good.
Exactly.
And then we can go on till tomorrow and do the same thing, and life is still good.
Yeah.
Again, if you have this, amoral, just, kill anybody, it doesn't matter, I'm not getting judged anyway.
Right.
Well, you are being judged by everybody else in society, and they can really make life hard for you. So.
And I wouldn't even necessarily say that, that it's I wouldn't put a value judgment on whether or not it's good or bad to kill somebody. And I don't mean that to say where I think it's a good thing. I think that's horrible. But again, I think there's, just like with the email Ashley read earlier, there's this misconception that because you're an atheist, that means that, as you were saying, caller, you have no moral background, you have no moral framework, therefore how can you have any morals? Well, I agree with Ashley that you have to abide by rules and societal mores, but I think more than that, the question becomes much deeper and much more complicated when you look at how your actions affect other people. And that is true that it's tied into societal norms, but just as a human being, why would I not kill somebody? Well, because it would hurt them. Is that not enough? To me, it doesn't take a God to reach that conclusion. I think is the way I can think of it.
And again, that hurting thing is a good point, because it's not so much that hurting somebody else is, good or bad. If you have to think about it, we kind of worry about you. But the fact that if I hurt somebody, it hurts them. I know what it's like to be hurt. I don't want to be hurt, so I won't hurt them. So, again, it's just doing unto others as you want done unto you. Or actually, I think the Jewish originally had that type of phrase, and it was a little bit different, as in don't do unto others what you would have them not do unto you. A little bit different, but it's the act of not doing something rather than doing something. But again, you can philosophize about why it is, and we've come up with these rules and stuff like that all day. But essentially, we are a very social species. We've lived together for long time.
And we rely on each other.
Exactly.
Hopefully, I mean, to an extent.
Yeah, it's kind of we try to. And so since we've done this for so long, essentially, it's now just kind of hardwired in. When I walk into Fry's or something like that, my first instinct is not ooh, I can take stuff, cool. Again, we've been living in society. We know how the rules work for millennia, millions of years, and so it's hardwired into our brain that we don't hurt other people, we don't kill people, we don't take stuff that's not ours, because we've had to do it for so long. It's, your first instinct is not to take something, not to kill people, and so you don't. That's kind of an afterthought. So, for most people.
Harsha, have you had a hard time explaining that to folks, or I mean, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I do have a hard time explaining people because that's exactly the reason why, you people pointed out, like you don't have a framework, so how do you base it on? That's what I frequently get.
Exactly.
But I do tell them that, I essentially believe that what you give the world ultimately comes back to you. So if you go out of your house with a good heart, then that's essentially what you're going to get in return. You don't need to have some justification or, religion to
Exactly.
base that on.
Yeah, and some folks would call that karma. Buddhists would call it karma, I suppose. But just personally, I don't feel like I need to ascribe any religion to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Why would you? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Can I just say one thing real quick? I was just curious why Harsha. Have you thought of? I guess I'm wondering, why are you an agnostic? Is it?
I'm just an agnostic because I really don't. I have no proof one way or the other. I'm still in the midway.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. Well, agnosticism and atheism, to go into a really quick discussion on that one, they really deal with different things. For instance, I'm assuming that you don't know for sure whether there is or isn't a God.
Right.
So you're agnostic.
Right.
You don't know for sure. If you knew one way or the other, then you'd be Gnostic. Theism and atheism deals with your belief, as in, I don't know for sure whether there is or isn't a God. But given the lack of evidence, I will choose not to believe. I'm not going to go to church. I'm not going to pay my tithes. I'm not going to do anything special, wondering if, maybe there's some God looking out for me or, watching over me or something like that. So I'm going to choose not to believe. I'm an atheist. Other people, 90% of Christians in the country possibly are agnostic. They would admit that they don't know for absolute certainty whether there is or isn't a God. But given what they see, they will choose to believe. So they're theist, an agnostic theist. And then, of course, you can take that to someone who knows that there isn't a God, who knows that there is a God, stuff like that. But those are usually less common. So again, it kind of depends on how you live your life. If you live like there is a God, then you're a theist. If you live like there isn't, then you're atheist, typically. So.
All right. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thanks for your call.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Okay, very interesting. Always good to have a morality call.
Yeah.
Okay, and who do we have next? We have Martin. Martin!
Hi, Martin. The host, Martin.
Oh dear.
Hi, Martin.
Hello.
What are we saying oh dear for? I'll leave you guys alone for 1 week and what is this, freaking carpenters? Oh man. I'm enjoying...
Hey, it was for Mr. Rogers, okay?
Yeah.
That's right, you didn't play, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Well,
There
we
you
didn't
go.
have that.
Yeah.
I wanted to, and I thought, well, Sesame Street's pretty close, so we'll go.
But
with
actually, I
that.
think this would be good, a theme song for an atheist show. We
Yeah.
want your neighbor.
Yeah,
Good to have you back on the show, Mary.
Thank you, Martin.
We're
It's
gonna
great
have
to
you
be
for
back.
Yeah, and you guys are, I'm just loving it. I'm watching you guys and having fun.
Got your feet up on the coffee table, sitting on the couch.
Exactly. Like we thought about doing the show all the time, right? So near my
Yeah.
door. Hey, no, I just wanted to add a point really quickly to the morality discussion
Okay.
with your previous callers. That how do you explain morality in secular context? And, you guys were correct in everything you said, but there is an important point to bring up, specifically when you are arguing this topic with Christians. And that is that, I have learned over time that it is less effective to try to go into a defense of secular morality with these folks as it is to turn the tables pretty much on them right away and bring up the very salient point that one of the core doctrines of the Christian faith is the doctrine of hell.
Yes.
Okay, Christianity's morality is essentially all about, punishment, retribution, that sort of thing. And it basically says you have to behave certain ways because if you don't, God will punish you forever. So it's rooted in reward and punishment.
Yeah.
Okay. There's not really any concept within the Christian framework for altruism. Being good is not really its own reward in a belief system like that.
Yeah.
It's all about, well, I don't want to do this because I don't want to go to hell.
Yeah.
But furthermore, Christianity takes it to, I think, an even more disturbing degree in that it tells people that all you have to do to earn an eternity of torture in hell is simply not be Christian.
Yeah.
And, you can be the greatest philanthropist of all time and not be Christian, and you deserve an eternity of torture. Whereas, on the other hand, you can be Ted Bundy, being strapped down to the gurney, have a jailhouse conversion at the last minute, and earn heaven.
Yep.
Which, in and of itself, is kind of twisted. But essentially, what you have, though, is now this belief system that says, do this, or you deserve an eternity of torture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, do this, or else. It's an insistence upon adhering to the doctrine, and it's a demand. You adhere to the doctrine, and that demand is backed up with threats of violence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That is immoral.
Yeah.
Okay? It's immoral to make demands of people. Even if it's something like join our club, it's immoral to make demands of people and then back that demand up with threats of violence for noncompliance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? Christianity is a belief system that treats all dissent with threats of violence.
And Martin,
So for a Christian to tell me that I
Yeah.
get my morals from their belief system when their belief system is immoral at its core,
yeah,
okay,
I'm glad.
is-
I'm sorry.
is
Can I interrupt you
completely
a second?
misguided. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's something I've been wondering about just personally. I mean, I know that if you read the Bible, then what you're saying is true, that if you don't believe in God, then you're going to burn in hell for eternity. I mean, there's just no way to get around that.
Or you don't accept Jesus as your Savior, the
that's-
whole new covenant, whole thing.
Right. So I just wonder, though, that if Christians who believe in Christianity, if they really accept it that literally, or if, I mean, suppose I die tomorrow, hey, I'm an atheist, I'm not going to change my mind because I'm scared about going to hell or any other thing like that. I'm comfortable with being an atheist and, that's all there is to it for me. But if, suppose I don't make that conversion, I find it hard to believe that all Christians really feel that I would burn in hell for that. Maybe they do.
Not necessarily all. I mean, there are.
But again,
I think it goes back to 90% of Christians don't. They don't agree with that, in that you wouldn't burn in hell and you would be given a last chance, something like that. Or more commonly, I think they may think that you will, but they don't think about it. They ignore it because that's the bad aspect of religion. That's the part that they don't really like. They may agree that it's going to happen, but they don't like it. They question it, but God probably knows what He's doing. So okay, we'll let that go. But ew, we don't want to deal with that.
yeah.
And so they don't think about it.
Well, and again, and different denominations and sects of Christianity have handled it in different ways. They've tried to get around that, icky, disturbing part of it.
Yeah.
Like the Catholics have purgatory,
Yeah.
and the Jehovah's Witnesses entirely reject the doctrine of hell. They just say that you cease to exist when you die if you're not Christian.
Yeah.
But still, I think though that in the end, even the nicest Christians, need to be sort of confronted with that, because you're right. I think Ashley, you're on target when you say that a lot of them just don't like to think about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think you would be surprised about how many of them do.
Really?
My mother, who was a dear woman and I loved to death, but I remember in we just had this horrible disaster with the Columbia, okay? And I remember in the 80s when the Challenger exploded, and you know, it was all day for days news about that. And I remember watching the news reports with her, and just my mom topping out as a random comment, "I hope they were all Christian."
Mm.
You know, it is just something that's ingrained.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
and Christians have just decided to not think that it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
That their religion is condemning 2/3 of the world's population to an eternity of torture.
Yeah.
You know, and when you approach a Christian with that, sometimes they'll say, "Well, but God doesn't want you to go to hell. He wants you to love Him, and He wants you to be part of His big family." And
But He's not trying very hard at it.
Well, but they're not getting it. What they're completely ignoring with that explanation is the fact that that the condition has been set in the first place
Yeah.
is immoral.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
I want to say here too that that's not why we're atheists either. We're not
Yes.
atheists because we're
Well, no,
afraid
right,
we're going
right.
to
Yeah,
burn
we're not
in hell.
we're not rebelling.
Yeah, we're not rebelling against it. Yeah. So
Right. I mean,
think
it's-
that's a
it-
misconception that people have, is that atheists must
Yeah.
atheists must be rebelling against that religion because
Yeah.
it says that. But that's not it at all.
And again, I think partly that's because of how we deal with it sometimes on the show, as in dealing with it in a morality aspect and saying, you know, God does all these awful things. And so they could kind of walk away with the conclusion, well, like, you know, you're saying God does all these awful things, therefore, that's why you're an atheist.
But I have found that it is a very effective counter to this idea that Christianity is the source of morality. When you can point to something that is a core tenet of the belief system and illustrate how immoral it is.
Yeah.
Now, steam will come out of their ears when you say that, but, you know, you need to hit them with that fact. And then, later on, you can go into, you know, reasons for secular morality that are based upon just rational dealings with things. You know, it is advantageous to cooperate,
Exactly.
you know, as opposed to not cooperating, which is disadvantageous.
Yeah.
You know, I've just found that that's a much more direct and effective way to argue, because we have had on the show, again, many times, right?
Yeah.
And these calls go on forever and ever and ever, because the caller can just run you around in circles when you try to explain secular morality.
Yeah.
And we tried to give the explanation that you were giving to Harsha just a few minutes ago. You would just say, "But that's God." You know, anytime
Yeah.
you try to define any kind of structure for
Exactly.
morality, you would just say, "But that's God. But that's God."
I love
So
virtual
you have
hell.
to get them around that. You have to show them that the God they worship is the least moral being possible.
Yeah.
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 And so anyway, but otherwise, loving the show.
Thank you, Mark.
And I'm surprised though that you haven't talked about Congress, the cloning ban that Congress just passed.
I didn't have that
I
one.
have absolutely nothing on it.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe
That's a
we
good
can talk
reason
about
why.
it on the maybe we can talk about it on the program next week, if you
Okay.
like. Make it a news
Wow.
item or something. But in any event, Mary, great to see you guys, and
Thanks,
you're
Martin.
doing good. And you know, maybe I pissed some people off, and you'll get some nice nasty calls now.
Okay, well, anything else?
Nah, that's it.
Cool. Thanks for calling.
Hey, take care.
Bye,
Okay, see you
Martin.
later.
too.
Bye. Okay, that was our host of the show, who is out this week, and will be out a little bit more also later in the month. He'll be back next week, though. So, okay, next we have Jim. Okay, Jim, you there?
Yes, I am. Can
Oh.
you hear me?
Hi.
Yes, we can.
Yes. I would like to ask you two questions. Number one, do you believe Jesus existed? I know you probably don't believe that he was a spiritual man,
Yeah.
a spirit but you might believe that he was a historical figure of the time.
Yeah.
And also, if somebody asked you, a Christian, and says that they will pray for you to become Christians, is your reaction to that? What is your reaction to that?
Okay. First off, as for the existence of Jesus, I've done a little bit of reading into that, but not very much. I know there's quite a few arguments on both sides, you know, on historical evidence for and against. Like I said, I haven't read enough into it to really have a strong opinion either way. You're absolutely right. We don't, you know, I have no doubt in my mind that he was not a spiritual being. He was not the Son of God or anything like that. He may have been a historical figure. I've also read a lot that he might also have been a compilation of several different people who were doing the same type of teachings, and they just kind of all congealed into one person over time. So that could be another thing. As for if he actually walked and talked, I don't know for sure. I'd be perfectly happy to find out that yeah, there actually was somebody called Jesus at that time who was teaching these things. Doesn't add any veracity to the story though. So.
And the second part, what do you think about if somebody said, "Will they pray for you?"
Will they pray for it?
Or they will pray for you.
I've heard a lot of people on the show say that they get offended by that. Because again, it goes back to this whole thing of, you believe that there's a higher God and you think I'm damned to hell and all this kind of stuff. I don't get all that bent out of shape about it. I realize what they're trying to do. It's a sort of a goodwill gesture in a way. And so I can kind of take it at face value and just let it slide. Typically, I'll kind of let that start a discussion. Because yeah, debating's fun. But I don't get all bent out of shape if somebody says they'll pray for me. I just, usually that comes at the end of it when they have, used all their arguments. That's the only thing left. And it's almost a veiled, again, it goes back to that hell thing, a veiled threat. If you're not going to convert, well, I'll pray for you because if you don't convert, you're going to burn for a long time. Not a good thing. Not a good thing. And so, again, usually that's their last ditch attempt to, try and make an impression. You've had your chance. It didn't work. Sorry. So, but do you have an opinion on this?
I do, and I would actually concur with what you were saying.
Okay.
I have no actual evidence that Jesus existed, but I certainly feel that if he does, that he's I can believe that he was an historical figure. Certainly. Certainly not Son of God, at least I wouldn't believe that. As far as if someone says they'll pray for me, I see that as something that comforts that person, and that's fine. I wouldn't want to take that away from somebody, but at the same time, I suppose it kind of depends on how they approach me about it. I guess I would get a little bit out of shape if somebody was in my face saying, "You're gonna burn, you're gonna burn."
Yeah.
But I mean, I can't say that that's ever happened. So how I would react to that, I don't really know. But I think most people are very tactful, when they say, "I'll pray for you," and so I think a tactful response is what that person deserves. I agree with Ashley. I don't think it's worthwhile to get all bent out of shape about it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for calling. Yeah, instead of praying for me, if you really want to help me out, give me $20.
The U Fund.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and we will go to Robert, who I think has been holding for an exceedingly
Thank you,
long
Robert.
time. Okay, you there?
Yes.
Ah, hello.
Hi. Oh, what is your name, sir?
Ashley.
Ashley and Mary. Yes.
Yeah.
How y'all?
Hi.
Okay. I was just had a couple of questions, and I back in '69 I did have an out-of-body experience,
Okay.
and I would have conversations with my brother's nephews, and I said, "Listen, if I die, just give my body to science. I don't want to be a burden to anybody, Everybody's entitled to their belief."
Yeah.
But they were talking about something that that I didn't quite believe and quite understand. And there were several people that called and had several questions, and to me, I said, religion. I said, there's many religions. I don't know which one's right, and I don't know who. I was very confused. Who's the Father? Who's the Son? Who's the Holy Spirit? And Jesus and all this. How can it be three in one?
Yeah.
And simply, to me, it's because I never came as a little child inquiring. Because if you tell a little boy or little girl as they're growing up, if you teach them to do right, because that's expected of them, as being good citizens or whatever, they'll do it. But if you go contrary to that, they're going to speak something else different, and they can turn to bad people. And I was listening to, I didn't understand the things and of God and what they were explaining to me. And then finally, I was very ill. I had out-of-body experience. I had a heart condition. My heart was swollen to 3 times its size. and it skipped and it leaked. And pain is pain because when Mary experienced some kind of a pain, she's the one that has it, and she can explain it. She can try to explain it, but she's the one that's carrying that bag of pain and what it is. And I was the same way, and I said, well, I just didn't quite understand. But I went to a gospel tent. It was a short little Mexican from Mexico, and I understand he had a lot of love and everything. And what the doctors, I was sick for 7 years, and I had an out-of-body experience, and I'm not going to go into that because it's pretty lengthy.
Okay.
And mainly, the religion is a dime a dozen, and I said, well, I come from a Catholic background because my forefathers left me that religion, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't seem to change me, and why am I treating people differently?
Yeah.
And I don't change, But I said, what am I looking for? And really, I must become like a little child and believe. And when I believe, and this man was very all ears. He listened to me, and he asked me one question: do you believe God can heal you? And I said, well, I tried everything else. What do I have to lose? And for 7 years, I took glycerin and Valium and everything to try and get better. And sometimes people don't want to be sick. No, nobody wants to be in an emergency, dying of whatever, AIDS or cancer or whatever. And to make a long story short, what the doctors couldn't do, and I, these people would lay hands on people, and I said, well, this is Robert. I'm not going to fall down because they lay hands on me. But I tell you what, he said, after a few, when I went to the tent, instead of getting a chair in the front, I was way in the back because people filled up the place. There was about 550 people, and he started speaking, and see, the Bible, you must understand that the Bible is for believers. It's not for non-believers. And I don't condemn anybody. Hey, if they don't know, they don't know. And you can't faith in anything you don't know anything about.
Well,
and I didn't know anything about this.
Robert?
Yes.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you one second?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering how you personally feel about the fact that the Bible does condemn non-believers to an eternity of torture. I realize that you yourself may not hold that viewpoint, but does it, what is your reaction to that?
Very good question. Okay. Now, the Son of God came not to condemn the world, but the world not be saved. It's a choice. Now, my brother, my friend here, next to you, he said, I plainly choose not to believe. It's a choice. But I can't condemn anybody because everybody has a choice. But I said, look, what do I have to lose? I've been sick for so long, and what the doctors couldn't do, and I believe in doctors. The yellow pages are full of them. But the thing is that when I believed, what I believe in an instant, and when I repented and received the free gift of life, in my heart, the repentance, not with my mind, not with my mouth, but with my heart, I believe, like a little child. And guess what? I received my miracle. I got 20/20 vision. I went back to the doctor, freaked them out. My EKGs, they said I had a heart of a 150-year-old person. And I said, oh my God. And I really wanted to get upset at the doctor, but he was telling me the truth because he had an EKG he was going by, and my heart was swollen and everything else.
But yeah, going back a second though, you said it's a choice. I've made the choice to not believe. You made the choice to believe, or other people have, stuff like that.
That's right.
But essentially, what you're given is not a very palatable choice to anyone, who has a sense of morality or anything like that. The choice is believe. Don't, it doesn't matter how you live your life. It doesn't matter what you do with your time, how you treat other people. Just believe, and you will get heaven, eternal reward. Or don't believe. Again, doesn't matter how you live your life. Could be the best person or the worst person, but just don't believe, and you burn for all eternity. Is that really a valid choice? As in, Martin used this analogy on the show a long time ago. What they had was the mob in New York. They would go to bars, walk in there with their guns and their black hats and everything, and say, "This is a really nice place you got. Be a shame if something happened to it. But if you pay us the protection money, then we can ensure that it won't get bombed or nothing bad will happen to it."
Extortion.
Exactly. Is that really a good choice? Was the mob being moral in that sense by saying, hey, look, you don't have to pay us. You have a choice. You're free. But if you don't do it, we're going to blow you up.
But see, that wasn't moral. That was putting fear in people, and they were doing the wrong thing by forcing the people. See,
Isn't that what God's doing?
No,
God is saying, I'm going to burn for all
what God
eternity.
is doing, see, I'm going to go back to Mary. I said, Mary, you just met me. I'm Robert, and I'm Mary. I don't want to force Mary to be my friend. I want Mary to choose to be my friend because she wants to be my friend.
Yeah, but you're going to beat her up if she isn't.
No, never.
Have me
No,
burn
but
it up.
that's
Okay.
God, that's being forceful, and that's what I'm saying. It's a free choice for her to be my friend because she wants to be my friend.
But why would I choose? I guess my question is,
Okay.
to me, it's not a very fair choice.
Okay.
The
well,
choice is.
okay.
you're
Do I
gonna
force you
burn.
to be my friend, or by free choice, do you want to be my friend?
Yeah.
That's what that's what I want to put it that way. You see what I'm saying?
But
And
the
I
only
choose-
way it can be a free choice is if there's no consequences
Right.
to choosing the wrong
Okay,
side.
now God says, I'll put before you life and death. You choose what you want. He doesn't force you. Now, Matthew 25, 40, and 41, it says that hell was made for the devil, not his angels. It wasn't made for humans. And see, that's what this gentleman that called before us, that
He
that
still
was
put us
condemned
there,
alive.
though.
Huh?
He still put us there, though.
No,
Whether he made it with that intent
He
or
will
not
put us
doesn't
there.
matter.
No, I'm not going there.
Well, let me add another
Yeah,
dimension
okay, go ahead,
real quick. I just wanted to mention, too, that, again, whether we believe or don't believe, the fact is that, another way to look at it, maybe, at least on the non-belief side, okay, I'll give you that,
Sure.
is, if hell doesn't exist, then none of us have anything to worry about.
What if it does?
Well, if it does,
We-
again, I'm arguing that it doesn't exist.
Okay.
So if hell just doesn't exist, and God doesn't exist, none of that exists, why should we all preoccupy ourselves with whether or not it does?
Do you believe that the center of the earth is very hot?
Sure.
Okay, so do I.
But it's also really
I could
dense.
deny
But I
that
don't
it's there, but
believe-
it's still there.
But I don't believe that there's some guy living there with a forked tail or whatever,
Okay.
whatever people want to call the devil.
See, the only thing, this here again is by choice. God gives us a free choice. He doesn't force us. He didn't force me.
Yes, he's not forcing us to
Yes.
choose one way or the other,
That's
but
right.
he's going to back up our choice with eternal torment and pain if you don't choose correctly.
Right.
You're free to do whatever you want, but if you don't choose correctly, you'll burn for all
Well,
eternity.
whose fault is that? Mine or
That's
yours?
his. He put the rules in place.
Yes, but he's giving you a way out.
That doesn't matter.
If you have a
So
little
did
boy,
the mob.
If you have
So
a little
did the
boy-
mob.
If you have a little boy and you tell him he doesn't understand about the fire, says don't put your hand on the fire on the furnace because you're going to get burned. What happens if he does it? He disobeys you, right? And he gets burned. That's what I'm putting it to you in a simple way.
Yeah.
And I'm not, in other words, let me tell you that what couldn't happen, he speaks of healing, and I got my healing by faith. It's all by faith, and it's just not, in other words, he offers love, he offers a way out, because, see, you have to believe what happened with Adam and Eve. They disobeyed. And also, whatever baby born in this world is going to die.
Yeah.
And God doesn't want anybody to get lost. That's a loving God. It's not a God. See, people put up
Okay.
the way, like this man calls it, will you throw this to the Christians and they get mad? I'm not going to get mad.
Well,
I don't
Robert,
have-
I'm sorry,
Well,
we appreciate your
yeah.
call,
Yes.
but we've got some other
Gotta
folks
move
on the
along
line.
here.
Okay, I understand. Well, Mary, it was nice talking to you. And
You too.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And again, this goes back to the point of how we discuss things. From
Yeah.
all this, you could almost say that, we believe in God, but we just don't like him.
Yeah.
But again,
It is, no.
there are two sides to the coin. One, we don't see any evidence for God, and therefore we choose not to believe. And two, if there is a God, he is the most amoral bastard I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
And
we
so
can talk about that all day.
exactly,
but,
that's fine. And so even if he were real, I'm not going to follow him and worship
Yeah.
him. He has not earned anything for worshiping.
Yeah.
So, okay.
But we're not angry.
No.
That's the thing.
Darth Vader. I'm not really all that mad at Darth Vader either. So.
Yeah, I know.
So.
Okay. Who's next?
Okay. Probably our last caller, Harish. Okay. Okay, you there?
Hi, how's it going?
Hi.
How
Hello.
are you doing? Good afternoon.
Good. Good
How are
afternoon.
you?
Good. I was watching this program, and which brought upon many questions, and I actually have more of a comment than a question. So
Okay.
please hear me out. All right. I think that being atheist and being religious is pretty much the same thing. I mean, atheism is basically a negation of God, and religion is an affirmation of God. So when people say, "How do you know God exists?" You can also say, "How do you?" Religious people can say also, how do you know God doesn't exist?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact is that we can't tell either way.
Yes.
And so I'd like you to like talk more about atheism, because I am actually an agnostic. I was an atheist before, but then I was like, this is crazy, because I'm doing the same thing that a religious person is doing, which is basically believing something that is not, which I'm not completely sure is true.
Well,
you know, like I'm not completely sure that God exists. At the same time, I'm not completely sure that God doesn't exist, and we don't have proof of either one of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I feel like the wiser thing to do is to be an agnostic, and I feel that atheism is mainly, it exists mainly to negate another belief, and when a belief is there just to negate another belief, it becomes, you know, I don't know, I find the foundation is rather weak.
Yeah.
But I'd like to hear what you two have to say about that.
Okay, and what it seems like you're confusing here is atheism is not, there's a big difference between saying there is no God and I don't believe that there is a God.
Right.
It's not negating.
Exactly. We are not saying that there is no God. I
we
realize.
Yeah, we are.
I realize.
I mean, so what exactly
from a logical standpoint, I cannot argue that there is no God. There is no way for me to prove that God is not hiding out in a rock in Missouri.
That's true.
It's entirely possible. It's unlikely,
Right.
but it's possible. And so, again, given the lack of evidence for any form of a God that I've ever seen, I choose not to believe. I just don't think that there is one. Now, if somebody can come along and provide evidence, I'll listen. I'll convert tomorrow if they can show me evidence of a God. But without that evidence, I'm just going to choose not to believe. There could be unicorns living in Tahiti right now, but I've seen no evidence. I choose not to believe. I'm not saying there aren't.
And we're not saying, ooh, there are no unicorns.
Exactly.
Right, but a religious person will also say that, you know, the day somebody proves that God does not exist, I will also cease to believe in God. I mean, both of you guys have pretty much the same perspective. I mean, you're on, you're on again, like either extreme, basically.
Yeah, but the burden,
and which makes you actually quite congruous to one another.
Actually, no. The burden of proof lies on the person making the positive claim. They are claiming that there is a God. You could be claiming that there are unicorns. You have the burden of proof to prove that. If there's no evidence for it, then not believing in it is the only valid choice that there is. There could be an advanced race of aliens living in the center of our sun. No evidence. I have no reason to believe it.
And that is not negating the concept. That's just saying, if you believe this, then it's up to you to prove it.
Yeah. You have not provided sufficient evidence to prove your claim, therefore I don't believe it. And so we're not saying that there is no God. We're saying lack of proof, decide not to believe.
Okay.
And I would say there is no God, but...
Right. I mean,
you know.
And again, it goes back to that fine line of can we, logically defend that argument, and no.
It goes to the fine line of, like, being on either this side or the other side. I mean, it's totally taking into account the whole duality of nature, which I believe does not exist. Which is either you're on this side, which is the religious side, or you're on the atheist side. But I guess for me personally, I'm more in between. You know what I mean? Because I feel that's the more realistic approach to take. Because I am, because I can't either. I can't do one or the other, basically.
Well, do you?
And I cannot be completely convinced of being an atheist, nor can I be completely convinced of being a religious person either.
Well, Harish, would you say that you don't believe because you're afraid of the repercussions of not believing?
Oh, no.
Okay, I didn't think so.
No. I would even classify myself as an agnostic Hindu, and because I was born a Hindu, and so we don't have this whole thing about burning in hell and and all these other sort of things. I believe in Hindu philosophies, but at the same time, I do not believe in it. I don't take everything literally at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm sort of in between.
Yeah.
But but I find myself in a very comfortable position.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to let you go because we have less than a minute left on the airtime.
That was
fast. Thank you so much.
But yeah, thank you very much for calling. And he's already hung up. Wow. Okay, this is our Sunday show. We also have reruns at Sunday at 4:30, Channel 10, same time.
Thank you, crew.
Yep, you can check out our website, atheist-community.org. And yes, wow, we have a crew today.
Woo!
Jeez, and thank you to everyone. Without you, we would not have a show.
Yay.
So,
You're
like I
our love
say,
ring.
yes, and we don't take them back very often, but, at times. Everybody have a good week. We will be back next Sunday at 4:30, same bat time and same bat channel. Until then, everybody have a good weekend. Goodbye.
Bye.